Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining from. Uh, Welcome to the next edition of our webinar series from Digitay Swift Kanban. Today's webinar is on the topic of strategic portfolio management with Kanban, and it's brought to you by Digital Sparks and Swift Kanban from Digitay. I can see people are still joining in, but let's get started with some initial agenda and housekeeping stuff, and hopefully most of the people who are going to join will have joined by the time. Simple agenda, we will start with some introductions. I'll give you a quick overview of the Digitay organization and Swift Kanban product, and then I will hand over the mic to our main speaker today, Matthias Patzak, and he will be talking to you about his experience with strategic portfolio management with Kanban. And at the end of the webinar, we will take your questions and answers. The question answers will be taken using the chat or the question box that you should see on the right side of your screens. Feel free to ask the question anytime during the webinar. We will take them at the end in the order that we receive them. The webinar is being recorded, so don't need to worry about taking too detailed notes. We will send you the recording of the webinar after it is done in a day or two in a follow-up email campaign. Before we get started, we just wanted to get a quick idea of who our audience today is. So we have a couple of poll questions. Let's show the first poll question right now, and let's get a response to that. And so we just want to know how long has your team organization adopted Kanban, and let's give you a few seconds to respond to that. And we just want to get an idea of your overall Kanban experience. And we'll give a few more seconds here and close it out. Okay, and let's share the results, see what we see. Pretty even distribution. Quite a few of you, roughly about half of you, have about a year or less than a year's experience with Kanban. Many of you with 1 to 3 years, but another 50. So total 50% of people with between 1 to more than 3 years of experience. So that's great. A lot of experience with Kanban here, and hopefully you will really enjoy the talk today as far as the topic is concerned, which is portfolio Kanban. Okay, so let's take away the results and let's continue with the webinar. Let me get started with the introduction. So today's main speaker is Matthias Patzak, and I hope that I keep pronouncing the name correctly. He's the executive advisor with Digital Sparks, a company that he's co-founded. My name is Mahesh Singh, and I'm a Senior Vice President and Head of Marketing at Digitay. Just a little bit more about Matthias. He has been a CTO and an engineering professional through his career, and now he's the executive advisor on Agile and lean topics at Digital Sparks, a company that he's founded. I misspoke earlier and said co-founded. Of course, he's a very strong believer in Agile way of building successful companies. And his passion is, like he says, traveling the world and setting up performing Agile product engineering organizations. He's had long experience working working with an internet classified business in Germany, and currently he's running his own business and as an executive advisor helping others deliver greater impact. Let me before I get to the overview of Digitay itself, we just had one more question about your experience with portfolio Kanban. So let's just quickly give you another poll question, and then we'll get with the rest of the presentation. So we just wanted to know if you currently do portfolio management, and if you do, what is the way that you do the portfolio management. So we'll give you a few seconds here to respond. Many of you might still be using traditional portfolio management method and tools. Some of you may not have too much portfolio management experience, and many of the companies that we have worked with, of course, already do some level of agile portfolio management, and so we just wanted to understand how many of you have that background. Okay, give a couple of more seconds here. All right, and let's just close it out now. All right, so you see quite a distribution here. So of course, like I think I expected, you would probably have a lot of experience with traditional portfolio management using, CA Clarity probably has been a very popular tool for portfolio management, Microsoft Project and its associated tools. Of course, in the last decade, there has been a fair amount of interest in Agile portfolio management as well, and they have about 20% of you doing that, and then about 10% using Kanban for portfolio management. So that's great. Hopefully, you will learn today, but of course, for the rest of the 90%, hopefully this is going to be a very interesting webinar where you can learn about how you can use Kanban for a visual portfolio management and agile portfolio management. So that's great. Let's continue with the session. So just a quick word about Digite before I hand over to Matthias. So we are a web-based collaborative product company, typically helping geographically distributed teams to collaborate more successfully, more easily for a variety of their technology as well as non-technology initiatives and businesses. We are headquartered in Cupertino, California. That's in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we are, like we say, we have Apple headquarters in our backyard. We have quite a few users around the world, 750,000 and more. Our products cover lean and agile project portfolio management and application lifecycle management. And of course, Swift Kanban is our flagship lean Kanban product that we have built with a lot of collaboration with the lean Kanban community. Just a quick word about that. Of course, a majority of our customers tend to be software and IT organizations that use it for software development, a variety of IT operations and DevOps type of functions. We have a lot of capability from a visual portfolio management capability, and so we provide some specialized functions for setting up portfolio lanes, as you see on the top here. We have a very flexible way for you to define program, portfolio, project hierarchy in the way that you want to define, with a lot of configurability around that. We provide risk management, strong risk management capability that you can use for risk profiling your different projects and deciding which ones to select and execute based on their overall risk profile. And this is the risk assessment screen that I'm showing you here. And finally, some of you may be familiar with enterprise services planning, which is a body of knowledge that David Anderson, who is an advisor to the company and considered to be the sort of pioneer for the Kanban method. He is defined, and we work closely with him to build this capability that lets you really understand your organizational capability, understand the overall demand and capacity of your different teams, and use that for getting to be better at forecasting and predictive capabilities for keeping or making commitments to your customers. So a lot of capability that we have in this, both in portfolio management and enterprise services planning. Of course, a lot of our customers also tend to be non-IT and non-software businesses and functions, and you get used a lot by functions that are shown here, like marketing and HR and procurement, etc. And then, of course, we also have a very large number of people using Swift Kanban for personal Kanban reasons, whether it is for your own work management or for family or for event planning, things like that. So a lot of different uses for the product that are being done. One of the key things that we are known for is our analytics, and we, of course, provide all the standard sort of Kanban method-related metrics and more. And we are quite, light for this aspect of our software. Last slide here, just to give you an idea of what are some of the, different customers who have, and some of these may be familiar brands to you. So we have some very large customers, and so therefore our products are very capable of scaling to hundreds of thousands of users on the one hand, and of course we have very small customers as well. So it's easy to use from that point of view and be able to quickly get up and running, depending, irrespective of what your team and organization size might be. So with that, let me hand over the microphone to Matthias. Matthias, a warm welcome to you. Let me make you the presenter, and you should be able to start sharing your screen right here. All right, there you go.
Hi, this is Matthias from Germany. I'm based in Munich, town south of Germany. Thank you very much for joining my webinar. As you heard, I've been a long time CTO and before developer. I started my career in 2000. In 2002, get in touch with the Agile practices, so with build server and continuous integration. And since 2008, I'm running teams and I learned scale teams. And today this is more a case study than a typical advisor or consultant talk about how you do it. I'm going to tell a story how we as a company evolved into Agile and Lean and finally realized that we're not really changing the value contribution of IT to the company. And I'm going to tell you what we did to change it. So usually, occasionally I'm talking on conferences and then I'm talking about Lean and Agile, and this is a lot about mastery, continuous delivery, about the cloud transformation we did. But today I'm going to talk about a different topic because it's not just about being Agile, it's also about creating value, and this is often missed in discussions with people. Also now with my clients, I'm since December a self-employed and independent self-directed advisor. They often try just to become better, deliver more quality, better quality, deliver faster, reduce the cycle time and increase their throughput, but often they really miss to deliver value to the customer. And this talk is about how we as a company changed our organizational structure and the operational model with Kanban to deliver more value. What I'm talking about is the European online used car market. The company is the leading European online used car market, so in some markets they are the market leader, and their home market, Germany, they are just number 2. At this point of time when I left the company, last year November, we had around 350 employees and 120 engineers. With engineer I mean developers and administrators, but in 2013, 2014 we got rid of these names because we did a cloud transformation and we transformed also in a you build it, you run it organization. Everyone in this company who has been former dev or ops is now called an engineer. I had the pleasure to have this talk also in Hamburg and in Fort Lauderdale at the Lean Kanban Conference Central Europe and Lean Agile US. And this is a slide I hadn't prepared for Hamburg. And after the talk, someone said, yeah, great story, great talk, but what really was the actual impact of your initiatives? And these are the official numbers publicly released by the company, where you can see the development of the revenue and the EBITDA, so the profit of this company. And if you say 2014 is the baseline for revenue and for profit, you can see that just in 2 business years we increased revenue by 42% and we nearly doubled the profit of the company. So we had huge impact on the financial growth of this company with this initiative and some other initiatives. So our Agile journey started in 2008. In 2008 I joined the company. The company was 8 years old, in the middle of a technology transformation from ASP to ASP.NET, and we tried to improve the processes of this startup with Agile methodologies, and we introduced Scrum, and over the years, we made a huge journey. So this build is built on the way to the Mount Everest, and this is how the journey felt to us, even if we improved year over year. So we became fast and more reliable. At the end, when I left the company, we were releasing 250 times a week. So we implemented continuous delivery. We had microservices on AWS, so we sliced our architecture. We also developed from really a battle between developers and operations people into a DevOps model, and then from the DevOps model into a you build it, you run it model. We also had cross-functional team, so everything there, what the community believes are the ingredients for a great Agile setup. But nevertheless, it must have been in 2011 or 2012, the vice president of sales came to me one day and said, a bit joking, hey Matthias, you're delivering too fast, we can't sell the stuff you're building. You can imagine how proud I was at this point of time that IT, who has really been the bad guy in this company for years, now was fast and reliable. But in his joke, there was a truth. So we were delivering a lot of features that were requested from our customers and from our salespeople and the product managers. But when we looked at the KPIs, we realized that the leads to our customers, the conversion rates, the revenue, it all changed into the right direction, but not as much as we wanted to. And at this point of time, we also introduced much more change into our product management department. So at this point of time, we introduced Lean Start model generation. So we invested a lot in more experimentation, in doing A/B test and failing faster and earlier. But what we did, and this is a slide I can use with permission of Klaus Leopold, we were optimizing the teams and the individuals, but we were not really optimizing the interactions between the teams. So we were still not as fast as we wanted to be. And even if we thought we were highly independent from a team perspective and also from a architectural perspective, we were not really good in managing the interaction between the teams. And we also realized that we're still not having the growth that we need to have to, especially because in 2014 we were bought by a private equity and we had higher targets and objectives for revenue and EBITDA. And then we came together as a leadership team and also guided by the new CEO. We said we need to change the way we run the company. And I will present you 5 points that we changed. And the first is we came up with we need to delegate decision-making from the management team to the people that are really close to the market. And this is a picture for at least 1 or maybe 2 years. You could have seen this picture drawn on nearly every whiteboard and flip chart in the company because we explained it so much. So in the middle, you can see the management, us, and outside is the market. And if someone close to the market, a sales guy, encounters an opportunity for a new feature, and then he comes back to management, asks for prioritization, for permission, for budget to build this feature. Until we have made the decision, build the feature, the market has moved. And we said, okay, at first we need to change how we make decisions in the company and delegate, even as we have been at this point of time rather agile with independent teams, much more authority to the people close to the market. The second thing what we introduced, we said we need to focus more on the paying customers. So before, our organization has been organized around products, so certain areas of our applications and of products, but we said we should not think in products, even if product thinking is better than project thinking. We said we really need to understand the needs of our customers, and we need people who just think as our customers and then build stuff that make the customer happy and make us earn more money. And so we separated the company into what we called market segments. In other other companies you would call it a business unit or something like this. And our market segment are focused on our paying customers, so the car dealers, then private people selling cars, OEMs, this is the term for car manufacturer, and also for media businesses. So we also have ads on our website, and this media space is bought by media businesses. You may have encountered that this organization is set up to achieve multiple objectives. This is a bit unusual because if you're following great people in the community, they talk about the true north. You need to set for your organization a true north. You need to have a single objective, and then everyone needs to align on this objective. We totally agree to this approach, but we said we have different kind of customers, and we have high objectives and ambitions for growth. So we try to do something different, and this is we try to set multiple objectives, multiple true norths, even especially for these customer groups and the units involved there. Nevertheless, this unclear North Star, and in our case, for example, it was a certain amount of revenue increase, plus, for example, we want to be consumer first, lead to conflicts. And these conflicts we had in prioritization, in dependency management, this is what we tried to solve with Kanban that I will show you in a few minutes. The third thing that we changed is that we said each of this segment, the dealer segment, the private seller segment, should be run by a cross-functional leadership team. So we learned as an organization that cross-functional teams and bringing together different skills and diversity in a team is very powerful. And as we said, decisions should be done very, very close to the customers. We also said we want cross-functional decision-making. And so each of the segment got a cross-functional leadership team made out of someone out of sales, someone out of tech, someone out of product management, and someone out of marketing. And we called this team the Fabulous Four. And yes, most of the time maybe the product people had the final call on what product to build, but nevertheless it was a cross-functional team and they had joint responsibilities. And for example, when the product lady was sick on one of our very important strategy or prioritization meeting, then it was really come that the tech guy or the marketing guy jumped in and also was able to present her part. What we did is a bit of a tweak because the current organization model is set up just to focusing on customers. But in an internet business, you have consumers, users who use your service, and you have paying customers. In our service, it's private buyers, people who are private, buying private cars. And we were talking with other companies in the community about this a model that others still have implemented. And what they told us, if you set up your organization just focusing on paying customers, then these units will destroy your user experience. And this is why we introduced a fifth organization that was just taking care about the homepage, the list page, the detail page. So basically the search funnel of this company to have a consistent core experience that makes the private buyer, the end user, happy. We made a bit more optimizations, so we also introduced a business platform. There are systems in that are common systems that are used by many of these other organizations, and we also introduced a data platform. So this is a common team or separate teams that provide data services for all the others, because we said we want a unique database or data service. But this model also has some challenges, as you might see. So the business platform, in our case, sometimes delivers dead rats. So imagine you have a cat, and the cat goes hunting, and she's very, very happy that she got a rat, and she bring it to your house and lie it on your couch. So you're not happy, but the cat is, and this is what sometimes happened to the business platform. They thought they are building great systems. used by all other units, but then when they were finished, the other units were not really using it. And we also had some issues with the core experience, because this is the main funnel where the business happens. Everyone wants to have stuff in their core experience. And this dependency to the teams in the core experience slowed down the delivery of some of the other teams. And this is also what we try to fix with Kanban on the portfolio level. What is also very clear is a Kanban principle, but we want to manage work and not the workers. And for us, it was translated into, we gave autonomy, but we also need alignment. So some of you might know this graph. On the one axis you see autonomy, and this is where most of the companies start when they agilize the company. They give more autonomy to their teams, starting with development teams, then with operations, then with product, and some continue the journey to marketing and other departments. But then, and this is what happened to us, we realized we were missing alignment. So we had a lot of independent teams. Every one of them was fast, but not many of them were running in the same directions. And with the high ambition level we had on delivering value for the customers and for the shareholders, we said we have to heavily align the teams on common vision, common purpose, a common strategy, and the business KPIs on which we are going to judge on the success of the company. And you need to be crystal clear on your vision, your strategy, and especially also the KPIs you want to change with your initiatives. And this is the fourth thing that we did with Portfolio Kanban. The fifth thing is also something that we learned from applying Agile and Lean on the team level, is that it's really important to bring people together. And this is why we created a physical, visual Kanban board representing our work. And I will show you a bit more and details of this board in the next slide. But basically, you see on the top descriptions what the columns mean. So you have the columns, and above you have always, this has been a letter page in Germany where we said, okay, this is, for example, what we do, what we plan to have in the next 90 days. This board has basically three areas I'm going to explain on the next slide. One is strategic context, then upcoming ideas, and then how we run the current 90 days. And this is the schematic picture of this Kanban board, how we did portfolio management. And there you see we have one area, strategic context. And in the strategic context, each lane is a segment. And we delegated a lot of authority to the segment leads, so the fabulous four. But we said, hey, dear team, you need to come up with a strategy. And you need to come up with strategic goals. And you need to come up with some KPIs. And these were rather complex slide decks often, but they needed to bring it down to a one-pager. So the strategic goal of the segment A is, and then we wanted to have either a very verbally description, but also with numbers. So a goal is just not we want to improve something, is we want to improve our lead conversion rate by 17% for car dealers in Austria, for example. And then in the second column with the KPIs, there we requested from them to show us the actual KPI dashboard of the segment. So we agreed on KPIs, and they showed, are they improving against the KPIs or are they not improving against the KPIs? And for example, based on these KPIs, we made budget and investment decisions. So if, for example, but this was really case-by-case decisions, if a segment was running very well, so the KPIs improved a lot, maybe they got more money because we said, wow, great team, if give them more money, more teams, they will deliver more value. Or in another case, it would be also possible that we said, wow, they increased the KPIs a lot. This is the right ambition level. We take budget and teams away from them, and we shift budget into another segment. So we invest in a weaker team or in a segment where we thought we could improve a bit more. And this is why we had here capacity as a third column. So we tried not to improve our resource efficiency, but for the segments, it was important that they can show what is the value they are currently delivering, and they can also show to the whole company, also for decision making, what is the actual budget and capacity that they got from the company to deliver against these strategic goals and the KPIs. And this context for us was really important, because often if we have discussions on the actual value delivery, then you need to make your decision making against your strategy of the company, the strategic goals, and the actual state of your KPI deck. The second area is the validation area. And the validation area comes from our lean startup experience, where we said we don't want to build a feature. At first, we need to ideate on this feature and we need to validate on this feature. So we want to invest just very, very little money to know if it's worth to build this feature, how much is the potential for this feature on growth against the KPIs. And at this stage also we decided to kill some of the initiatives, because if you encounter very early that initiative can't deliver value, then don't build the feature. And this is what we see with a lot of other companies in the community, that they miss this step and they're just building features and have all their developers busy. The next area is the actual feature delivery. So this is a really high level view on what are the dev teams, and we had 15 to 20 dev teams, what are they currently working on. So this is the parking lot ready for the next 90 days. It's basically, we were running in a 90-day cycle, but not in a hard time box as you do it in Scrum. It was just organizational rhythm for the organization, also with cadence for some meetings I'm going to show you in a few minutes. But this was a parking lot and also a communication place where you could see what are the initiatives and the values we want to deliver in the next 90 days. Then some people need to prepare stuff for development, and then what is in development. And then we are not ending our development process with what you see on most of the Kanban boards with done or live or something else. So we say, we introduce, and we say our process, our service is delivered if we have impact achieved. So if a KPI that we have specified at the beginning of the feature, if this KPI has changed enough that we can say, okay, we really made a difference for our customer. And to achieve this, when we put something live, we have a column before where we say measure success. So this is a time when the feature is live in production, and we need to improve. First, we need to measure how does this feature perform. We do A/B testing, for example. We look in our metrics in Google Analytics, and then maybe more stuff needs to be done by the Agile teams. They need to improve on these initiatives, and sometimes we also need to kill initiatives. We have made this very rarely, even if we saw that the KPIs does not really change. But this is how we end our process. So we really start with strategic guidance. We validate the idea, then we build the stuff, and afterwards we measure the success and learn from it. So as I told you, for us it was really important to get alignment. And alignment in a physical space with a visual representation of our work with real people. And the FabX, so the cross-functional team, they meet together. Yeah, so all FabX teams together plus the VP group and everyone else who is interested from the company. So often legal was there, controlling was there, because they knew that at this meeting the important decisions in the company were made in front of the Kanban board. And for the tactical roadmap, so what are we doing on the next 90 days? What will be in ideation and validation? What will be in the actual development? We had a huge 90-day meeting. It was a day, a whole day. Sometimes it was also 2 days, so we experimented a bit. There are a lot of people from the company, and you can imagine it's 40 or 50 people in a large room presenting their strategy, presenting their KPIs, the actual progress against the KPIs, what they achieved in the last quarter, what they want to have, what they want to achieve in the next quarter. In this meeting, also conflicts and dependency were raised. Some of this dependency were solved then in the meeting, and some of these dependencies and decisions were decided afterwards. But for us, this was a really, really important meeting to get the people in sync, agree on priorities, decide on conflicts, and then kick off the next 90 days. On operational level, nearly the same group were meeting every 40 days in front of the Kanban board and was talking about the actual state of the 90 days. So are we delivering the value we aim for? And we also had twice a year a whole day workshop where the FabX teams plus the VP group were talking about the actual strategic direction of the company. Meaning, what is the strategic direction of each of the segment? Again, depending on their defined strategy, the strategic goals, and the KPIs and the customer needs, and also the overall strategy. And this also were some very enlightening, but also some controversial meetings, because one of the constraints is always budget and capacity. And for us, a strategic initiative always has been a bet. And the question with a bet, how much money are you betting on this initiative? How much money are you willing to lose if this initiative fails? But for us, these discussions, face-to-face in this large room in front of the Kanban board, were very valuable for us. And I can really recommend to have such cadences on the different aspects of your business. So the strategic aspect, the tactical, and the operational business. We had when I left the company, we had a next version ready for this board. We had too much discussions and hassle about what is the actual company priority. And if we have dependencies, and we had a lot of dependencies, who should win? And this was not very clear visualized on the Kanban board. And this is why we decided to change the Kanban board, that we said not in the strategic context, but then if we send initiatives, strategic initiatives in the actual delivery stream, we're going to prioritize from the top to the bottom. We make a ranking from 1 to 100, 1 to 50. What is the most important initiative and what is the least important initiative we are working on? And then it's very clear the most important initiative gets all the resources we need to deliver this initiative to create value for the customer and the company. And we hope that this change will make prioritization and decision making easier and faster. And this again is this board where you can see it again at the state. Here again you see the strategic context with the goals, the KPIs, and the capacity, and the different papers the segments put it on there, so some with printouts, some standardized, and some numbers were just added by hand. So we didn't really like this on the business KPI part, but it was better than nothing. And at the initial time of this, we had also the development teams there that we have been able to see which team is currently working on which initiative. But this is what, as I just told you, what we changed over time into what is a clear priority for the company, and the line will be the strategic initiatives. And here you have ideation and validation, and then again you can see the last two of the columns: measure success and impact achieved. And you see a lot of stuff in the impact achieved and a bit in measure success. And I want to show you what is actual an initiative card. So all the little cards that you can see here were pre-printed. It's static, so stuff that sticks electromagnetic on a wall, and they were customized, printed just for us. And you can see on the initiative card for us, it's very clear what you need. It's an initiative name. We also had a super rough estimate of the duration, who is the responsible product manager, if you want to ask something about the initiative. And then we said we are not managing output, we are managing outcome. So please give us a description. What are you trying to achieve? And in this case, build a MVP to validate customer need for a mobile-only DMS targeted for small dealers. Business objective is to generate interaction points and engagement with them. So more qualitative statement and more verbally statement. And then we said, okay, we really want to have it much more detailed. So what is the actual KPI that you're trying to change, and what are you trying to achieve? So this is just an example. Increased download of the app by 10% and weekly usage by 30%. But we were really keen on get good numbers here. And for prioritization, we tried out cost of delay, but cost of delay didn't really work out for us, because cost of delay is very powerful if you can bring it down to just one KPI, basically revenue in all the cost of delay examples. Our segments had different objectives, so some had revenue, some had listings, some had returning users, for example, and this was hard to bring it really down in a cost of delay score. What we also had is color coding for this initiatives card, because we as a VP group and the FabX, we were arguing at some point in time about, are we working on the right stuff? So we have a lot of initiatives on the board, but my feeling was it's just basic stuff, super unimportant stuff, no one really cares. And then Klaus Leopold, who was our consultant at this point of time, came up with this great idea and said, yeah, but why don't color code your initiatives card and introduce something like a differentiator? So the purple card is stuff that we built to have a great competitive advantage. Then we had spoilers, something that destroy a differentiator of our competition. And then table stake, this is the stuff that I thought that we were building a lot, so just basic functionality. And then we also had something that we called a harvester. So a price increase in Italy is not a strategic differentiator, but growing your profit in Italy by 20% is something you should just do. And by just color coding the initiatives, we had a much more better view on what our currently investment in our portfolio is. And I learned that we had much more differentiator and harvesters of stuff that really drives our business than I have thought. Yeah, and as you have seen with the cadences, we implemented Kanban nearly on every 3 levels of the companies. So as I just have described, we had Kanban on the strategic level. This is what we call the program wall. This is what the community calls the portfolio. We were running Kanban also on a tactical level, and I will show you an example of this in a few minutes. So the tactical level means every segment also had a segment board, and we had traceability between the program wall and the segment boards, and we had several of the segment boards. And on the operational level, each of our team had also a board, but yeah, no, we don't really have any team left over doing Scrum, but it would have been okay for us at this point of time. So we really don't care what is the process the actual team follows, as long as they do it with discipline and with success. But every team needs to visualize the work on a team board. And this is an example of one of our segment boards. So you can see this is the product roadmap for the next quarter. Then they say, okay, this is our discovery and define phase, what is in validation and what is in discovery. And then here they manage their actual team. This is what they call design and deliver together with WIP limits. In this delivery phase, they focus on the teams. What are the teams working on? Here on the product roadmap, they have their strategic teams, strategic themes. This is taken out of the strategy. Here they manage what do we need to deliver against our strategy to increase the value. So this is nearly the end of my talk. So the takeaways would be, for us it was really helpful that we delegated decision making to people close to the market. This made us faster, plus the decisions were much better. It's really necessary that you focus on your customer and the value creation for your customer, and not on your products or services. Then decide and act cross-functional. As everyone, really everyone in the Agile community knows, cross-functionality on team level works. It's the same on portfolio level. It really makes your decision making better. And you need autonomy, and also bring people, manage your value creation visually. I see now with some of my current clients, they are missing it. They say our company is too large, we handle too much stuff, and we have everything in Jira. But you lose a lot of the power of visual boards and the face-to-face communication if you don't have a visual, physical representation of your boards. So my strong advice is have a system, a tool where you have your work in and your process in, like DGT, but also have a visual representation of it. They should be close in sync, but there is no need that there is a daily sync. So this was my webinar, and now I would be open for any question.
Thank you, Matthias. Great presentation, and very enlightening from I would say a classic implementation of portfolio Kanban, and taking on the key challenges of why companies implement portfolio management, and how it might be more successful with Kanban perhaps than with other techniques. So in fact, let me first invite the audience for any questions that you guys have. Please use the questions box on the right side of your screens to ask any question that you have. Matthias, let me start with a couple of questions of my own. Firstly, perhaps I missed it in the start of your presentation, but why Kanban? Was Kanban already in place, or did you have other approaches that were used in the past that perhaps failed? Why did you select Kanban?
Kanban was there basically. So we started with Scrum in 2008, and then we had 2-week sprint, and then we had 1-week sprint, but we were in the sprint, and then we came into a Scrumban model, and then we came away from every 2 weeks a planning meeting, and then we made planning on demand, and then we came into Kanban. And then we also realized on team level the power of Kanban with WIP limits and all this stuff, even if it's really hard to implement. But we really, for us, for our mental model, Kanban was very appealing, and it's a rather short step if you realize that it works for a team, that it might also run for a company, and this is why we came up with, hey, why not visualize all the work of the company on a board and steer the company with this board.
Got it. Got it. Another question that I have is, and this is something that I heard in a presentation yesterday by someone who was talking about their Kanban implementation in a travel organization. And they also mentioned this fact that, they started off with, giving their teams autonomy, but at the end of the pilot phase, the first phase, they realized that they had to also, focus much more on alignment. So, and you mentioned the same thing, that you also noticed a disconnect, and then you did some course correction. So, I don't know if this is the right question to ask, but would you say that specifically as a portfolio management initiative, you want to first focus on alignment or first focus on autonomy? What is more important as you are getting started and you want to give the teams the right direction?
So I would answer, it's hard to answer, but I would answer autonomy first. Autonomy first, because this makes you fast, and I like to have autonomous teams, and I like to have diversity, and if the people got used to the autonomy they have, try to get some alignment back, but you still need to be able to be innovative. So the alignment is an alignment and is a guidance, but it's not a law or top-down direction. So it's really just alignment guidance.
Okay. That's useful to hear, because this is again the second time that I was hearing in 2 days. So certainly it's an important aspect of how you're organizing the overall project. So there's a question from Misha Gushenko. At which level did you start the transformation? Team level, management level, etc.?
In 2008, we started, as most of the companies do, on the team level, and then we realized we need to do team coordination. And then in 2014, we came up with, okay, Agile works now also use these principles on the portfolio level.
And so it was sort of a very classic Kanban implementation, started at the team level and then went higher as.
Yes.
Right.
I would, if for a new people, I would advise it a bit different. So start at the top and the bottom. Yeah.
Okay. We have done a webinar sometime in the past with Klaus, and he explained it in a very interesting way also. He said, if I remember correctly, I invite, of course, everyone on the webinar today to go listen to that recording, and perhaps you'd share that in a follow-up email. But he talked about starting at the highest level, and then as you felt the need for detail at any particular stage of the top level Kanban board, then he broke that down into the next level and the next level and so forth.
Yeah.
But of course, he was talking in a slightly different context.
No,
okay.
I'm totally with him. Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So another question here from Guy Winterbottom. Given portfolio level items move more slowly and are of different sizes, do you worry about cycle time metrics and flow metrics, or just the KPI impact?
No, you definitely need to measure cycle time and throughput, and you really need to optimize it, because on the initiative level your cycle time is so long, and what we realized, we made development in the IT fast, but the overall cycle time didn't change, because we had so many processes around, even as an internet company, around the actual development, that the value creation from idea to impact, how we call the overall process, was not really faster. And so you really need to handle your whole process from idea to impact, and you really need to measure cycle time and throughput. And I'm a big fan of the work from Troy McGinnis and Dan Vacanti, who do a lot of about metrics and forecasting, and you need to optimize to reduce the cycle time. But I see a lot of people just trying to be fast. This is what we did, but they don't really deliver value for their customer.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, absolutely. Very important. Let me ask this question from Alyssa Strobel. Hopefully I have your name right. Prioritization of the options. Idea to validate may end up with implementation of some MVP or some MVP. How do you deal with it? Is it something that goes to the next 90-day backlog? So I guess, yeah, go ahead.
Can you repeat the beginning of the question, please?
The prioritization of the options, the initial columns on your Kanban board, ideas to validate, the ideation period. How do you deal with that? It may generate multiple MVPs. How do you put them in a 90-day backlog and then you take them up?
Yeah, this is a bit difficult because in our business we have different KPIs from importance. So you can't rank in Excel. So you still need the brains of the responsible people, and they need to stand in front of the board and they need to decide. This is really just experts need to decide. We are betting on this or we are betting on this. Hopefully driven by some indicators and by some data.
Got it. Got it. I hope we answered that question fully, Alyssa. If you have any follow-up questions, do let us know separately. Another question from Angelica Loning. Do you recommend this method for managing releases of existing platforms, or how can it be applied for completely new platform development, which may mean major changes, including hardware, for example?
So I'm not experienced in hardware, but from a software perspective, it doesn't really make a difference if you are in a like we had a product where you're just adding incremental stuff, or if you're building a new platform, what we also did some years ago, not with Kanban, but the principles apply totally. What we also did at the same time, we made a cloud transformation, so building all the system new, and we also managed this with Kanban. So you can use this portfolio management approach also for new systems. Maybe then your process looks a bit different, and maybe you need different criteria for prioritization.
Right. I had a question also on the two columns that you had on the extreme right side of your board, and you made a mention of it specifically that you didn't stop at the completion of the work, but you also measured its impact and the success in the market. So how easy and challenging was it to, firstly, it can be difficult as you're working on multiple features and you're releasing them. It can be difficult to say that this particular feature contributed so much to, I don't know, revenue or margin, the two measures that you showed earlier. How did you manage to attribute these things to specific features that you released?
This is not easy. This is really not easy.
Right.
Yes. So you need to be really good in your analytics. You need to really good in your tracking. You need to be really good in knowing your data and being able to read your data. But you also need to be honest. If you finished a quarter and you invested several so nearly 100 engineers, and none of your KPI changed, then none of the stuff you delivered made a difference.
Right.
And this is what I often see in companies. And then the question is not which of the feature delivered value, it's why does the whole organization didn't deliver any value. And as long as the KPIs altogether move into the direction, and sometimes you can't really say it was A or B, then it's okay, as long as the KPI change. But this is a skill that I see missing in most of the organizations, that they are able to, at first, define the specific KPI they want to change with this feature, then define the ambition level for this KPI, and afterwards measure, have we really delivered value for the customer? And this is the lean startup thinking. And this is what is really missing, and we as a community really have to learn.
I completely agree with that. Absolutely. All right. It looks like we're coming to the end of the hour, but let me take this last question here from Pierre Gallant. And again, I apologize for murdering your name if I'm doing that. So his question, I think, which is also important for many people who may be, interested in this topic is, can you switch from traditional portfolio management to Kanban portfolio management without passing first to an intermediate methodology? Is the jump not too high?
So my first answer would be no, it's not too high. You can change. Then I was thinking about, I guess you can change. You really can change. Maybe you need for some time traceability between your old reports and the new reports, but maybe your old reports are still there, but you just feed them with different data. But I would say you can definitely switch.
All right, perfect. I think in a way you answered also the fact that you were already implementing Kanban. Kanban was already there, and therefore, I guess from there it was perhaps a little bit easier to move to portfolio Kanban.
No, what the people are not used to is standing in front of a visual representation of work for a period of time, and this is what really is that the people are not used to. It's not Kanban. It's not, oh, we're pulling something. It's really different kind of work. But I believe most of the companies anyway have to move into the more working style and less PowerPointing style. Yes. And it makes a difference because there you create alignment.
Absolutely. In fact, I made a note of that as you were talking about it, that ultimately I think the biggest benefit comes from the operational as well as tactical as well as strategic interactions and the coordination, which I think are key to the success of any initiative, and I think especially in the context of portfolio management, even more so.
Yes, you're right.
Perfect. So thank you so much, Matthias. Really pleasure to do this webinar with you. I think it's a very important topic that I think a lot of our customers and prospects are dealing with, and I assume that this is a topic that is important at the strategic levels in the organization. It's a high business impact activity, and I think your experience really helps us all learn from, and hopefully benefit from, and not to do some of the mistakes that perhaps we might do if we did not have this knowledge already. So thank you so much. I hope you also enjoyed the webinar and the Q&A session.
Yes, thank you very much. It was really a pleasure.
All right. Thank you to the audience, all of you who have stayed around till the end. We ran a little bit over, but not too much. If you have any follow-up questions, or if you need to learn anything more about Digital Sparks or Digitest with Kanban, the contact information is shown here. You can go to the websites, respective websites, and learn more about us. And if you have any questions, just send us an email or contact us on Twitter. As I said, we will share the recording of the webinar in a day or two. So thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to meeting you again at our next webinar. Matthias, thank you very much again.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.